explore the fundamentals of your ethics. And so I'd like to ask you, what is your ultimate value? By ultimate value, I mean an end that is not a means to anything else.
But I don't think I have an ultimate value. I think that's making it too simple. One of the things I value is human happiness, which is the objective of utilitarianism. But it's not the only thing I value, because I can imagine situations in which one choice increased happiness but was so obviously wrong to me that I would be against it.
Like what?
Well, the standard example is you have a small town with a series of murders, and there's likely to be a mob that's going to lynch some people that they think are guilty. You're the sheriff, and there's one person who you are pretty sure is innocent but who you could frame for the murders. Well, if you frame him and hang him, then one person dies unjustly. If you don't, the mob is going to lynch 3 people. So it looks as though in a total human happiness calculation, you, the sheriff, ought to frame the innocent guy.
Oh, okay. Now I understand. So you're talking about utilitarianism as far as what is the greatest good for the greatest number, or the greatest happiness for the greatest number.
That's the wrong way of putting it. What is maximizing either the total or the average of human happiness?
That's what I meant. But so it's not your own personal happiness that is your ultimate end. It's the society at home.
I have more than I don't have a single end.
Well, let me clarify the question a little bit. I mean an end that is not a means to anything else. And for which all means are the end. And that's the supreme good that the Greeks talk about.
But you believe in a simpler world than I do.
Maybe so. But so you could say I don't have any ultimate end.
That's right. I have a number of different things I value. A number of
What is the relationship between those things? Which is more important? How do they integrate?
But you're supposing that everything in the world is in lexicographic orders, in which you can always say A is more important than B. In fact,
I'm supposing that you should straighten out your thinking so you know what to do.
But if A and B are both important, then you would say, well, if I've got a way that gets me a whole lot of A and costs me a little B, I should do it. If I've got a way that gets me a whole lot of B and costs me a little A, I should do it.
In relationship to what? To what end? What is the ultimate end?
But you're assuming a single ultimate end. As I say, your world is simpler than mine.
So you have you pursue
I
means
have various things that I value.
Don't go anywhere, that are not for any particular ultimate end.
You pursue an ultimate end.
You pursue
an ultimate end which is not for any particular ultimate end. That makes exactly as much sense as what you said. I have a variety of ultimate ends, a variety of values.
But they can't be all ultimate, because what if they're in conflict? Which do you choose?
I just told you that depends on the trade-off between them. That your way of putting it is assuming that the world is a lexicographic
Okay, I got it. So what are your ultimate ends?
One of them is human happiness. One of
other
them,
people's.
In general, everybody's.
Yeah, the utilitarian perspective.
One of them is my own happiness.
Okay, that's another one.
One of them is freedom, as I understand it, that people be living the kind of life in which they make choices for themselves. That's both a means to happiness and an end in itself. One of them, I suppose, is human knowledge. It seems to me that the only way people really get away from this problem is to use some term like flourishing, which really ends up embedding a bunch of different ultimate ends.
So knowledge is not a means to any other end?
It's both. Freedom is both a means and an end. Knowledge is both a means and an end.
So
I would like to know things even if I'm not going to use the knowledge.
So if you had to choose between restricting your freedom in a particular situation and living a happy life, what would you choose?
How much restriction of freedom against how much happy life? You want it to be a lexicographic order, and that's not the way the world works.
Well, it seems to me that it's clear that freedom is a means.
Freedom
is...
So are you...
so is knowledge.
Wait a minute, you think of freedom...
And so is knowledge, but I do
If freedom
agree,
is a means, it's only a means...
I do agree that it can be a constituent end to your supreme good. But
using the singular. You keep assuming that I've got to have a simple system in which there's a single thing.
If you want to straighten out your priorities and your ends and means in life, you need to think it through. You need to think what is the ultimate end, and what are these other values?
Do-
How do they relate amongst each other?
Do you believe that you can deduce what your ultimate end should be?
That I can deduce it?
Yes. Can you prove to me what the right ultimate end is?
I think I can, but
All right, I think you can't.
right, I understand.
And I don't think I can either.
Well, what?
All I
okay,
can say is
have
there
a
are certain things I value.
Okay, so what things would you put above having a long, happy life?
I would put as things that I trade off against that, telling the truth. That if you tell me by telling a whole bunch of lies, I can make my life 10 minutes longer, I wouldn't do it because I disapprove of lying. If you tell me by telling if you tell me by telling one small lie, I can make my life 10 years longer, I probably would do it. This is why I keep insisting that it's not a lexicographic order. It's not a case where you aren't willing to give up anything of one to get anything of another. It depends on what the trade-offs are.
So I see that what you're in your example, you really this 10 minutes doesn't really make much difference as far as having a long, happy life.
It makes
So
it 10 minutes shorter.
It's a de minimis value anyway, so it really doesn't matter whether you live 10 minutes more or 10 minutes less.
If 10 minutes doesn't matter, then 20 minutes
I said it was
then 30
de
minutes
minimis. I said it was de minimis.
Yeah, but that's just a way of evading
Same.
the fact that it's a certain amount of life.
Right. It's a certain amount of life, but so small amount that.
If it were really a lexicographic order, which is the way you're trying to think of it, then any amount at all would be enough to veto my other values.
So you wouldn't tell the lies, and you would prefer to die 10 minutes sooner.
Correct.
Okay, and
But not
and
10
more,
years sooner.
Not 10 years sooner.
No.
Right, because that's a real
Unless
chunk
it was
of
some
life.
really big lies that I very strongly disapproved of, right?
And if they were big, very big lies, you would
Maybe.
be willing to tell them.
Maybe. I'd have to work out the
Or
case
they
to
wouldn't.
imagine
But,
one's
well,
big
before
enough.
you said that you wouldn't, that you are unwilling to tell those big lies.
For 10 minutes. And I'm saying whether
But-
I would for 10 years depends on whether I can think up lies that I disapprove of so strongly that I'd be willing to give up that much. But
So
all
your
I'm
choice
saying
is to live 10 years or tell some big lies. What would you do?
I don't know. Big lies doesn't tell me enough.
And why is it that you think telling big lies in the real world is going to increase your happiness? That seems to
it's
be.
going to increase my happiness?
Yeah, I don't think that's really
Well,
going to increase your
it
happiness.
sometimes
I think
does
that's the problem.
It sometimes does. There are times.
How does it increase your happiness?
If I need money
I-
to do things that are important, and I can lie to somebody in a way which gets me some money, which con men do all the time in various ways, the question is not what are my likely choices. The question is how do I choose among things.
Right.
And I'm trying to get you to recognize that it doesn't have to be there is a single value and everything is an input to it, which is the way you want to think about it, which is a nice tidy way to think about it,
Well,
but doesn't describe the way people really feel, and I bet
Well,
it doesn't
I
describe the way
think
you feel.
I think the problem with this example is that lying isn't always wrong. So
No.
some lies are proper, others aren't.
Maybe not. Most lies are not, though.
But that's true. But
But if you
Just,
don't like lying, you can make it restricting somebody's freedom, enslaving somebody for a while to get me a little bit more life. I
That's-
disapprove of that too.
I would never do it unless
Never?
I was under extreme duress, like I had a gun to my head,
How about
because I'm gonna die then. Then I would do it.
The case that I've used a long time ago to respond to libertarians who, like you, think that they're absolute, sort of infinitely important values, is to say, suppose an asteroid is going to just hit the Earth and destroy all life on Earth.
Yeah.
And by some bizarre set of circumstances, you can prevent it, but only by stealing a nickel from a man who is the just owner of that nickel. And the man who's the just owner of the nickel doesn't care if life ends. Doesn't like people
I
very
would
much.
steal the nickel.
Yeah, so would I.
Yeah. Okay.
But my point is that
well, because stealing under extreme duress is not a problem.
But wait a minute, it's no human being is making you do it. All you're saying is that when by a small violation of rights you can get an enormous benefit in human welfare, you will do it. So that means, so which is your ultimate, which is your ultimate value, human welfare or rights?
My ultimate value is to live a long, happy life, and
Your own long, happy life.
Yes,
So if you
first of all, the problem with utilitarianism is it's an impossible calculation to find out the average happiness of the whole world, or the benefit for the whole world. I mean, that's
there are other problems.
There's a lot of problems with utilitarianism. It doesn't make any sense.
So you're saying that if by sacrificing the life of everybody else on earth you could give yourself a longer and happier life, you would do it?
Why would I have a longer, happier life?
I don't know, but if you could, you're telling me. You were telling me what your objective is. That's not a statement about what the alternatives are.
No, well,
if your objective is a long, happiness life, then any set of alternatives, you always choose the one that gives you the longer, happier life.
If I loved anybody in the world and I cared about anything else in the world, my life wouldn't be happy. It would be unhappy if
on the contrary, at the same time that you wipe out everybody else, you also wipe out your memory of doing so.
Wipe out my memory? That's going to be hard.
Many things are hard. Things are hard.
That's fiction. That's fiction, David.
But we're trying to work out what your values are, not what your alternatives are.
I'm telling you, every case is easy.
No.
I've given you my answer.
But you don't believe in that answer.
Well, I do believe in the answer, which is, if you kill everybody that you care about, you're not going to be happy. So you're not living a long, happy life. I think the implications of mass murder would be a big burden on my happiness.
Fortunately, you've got a drug which will wipe out your memory of the last day in which you did the murder.
No, I don't believe that.
But all you're saying is you aren't faced with those choices, which means that you're evading the question, if you were faced with the choices, what would you do? And I'm claiming you don't really believe in the principles you think you believe in by trying to give you hard cases instead of easy cases.
No, you can give me all the hard cases you want, but they can't be fiction. They can't be like, I'm going to wipe out my memory and this and that.
Why not?
Because that's not.
That's a hard case.
But that doesn't happen in life. I mean, who wipes out one day's memory or whatever?
There are in fact drugs which sometimes result in wiping out memory, but you can. If you don't like the particular hypotheticals, with a little effort, you can pick up ones of your own. The point is that if you really have a choice between making your life a little bit longer or a little happier and doing something else you regard as really wicked, you wouldn't do it. And that indicates that you don't have a single value.
No, because it's the consequence on my happiness.
Why does it make you unhappy? If your objective is to long and happy life, killing 100 million people you've never seen won't affect your life. So why does it make you unhappy?
Of course it makes me unhappy, because I have principles and values.
Which means that you have things that you care about other than the length and happiness of your life.
No, those are the things that extend my happy life and make my happy life possible.